Hi, it's Twanna Carter, career and anxiety coach. How is your Wednesday? You made it through the middle of the week. Congratulations. And for my listeners in India, in Australia, New Zealand, you've made it to Thursday. Congratulations on that. So today, wanted to pop in for a few moments and let's talk women in the workplace. Um, let's talk women in the workplace and why it can seem like it's so difficult sometimes when there's a group of women in the workplace. Why does it seem like it's so hard to get ahead? And you would think to yourself, if we're all a bunch of women, we should be in there. At least this is my train of thought. I felt like if we're a lot of women in the workplace and we should all be there rooting for one another, cheering for one another, helping one another to get ahead, sometimes it just didn't work out that way. And for a while, I really just thought it was me. I just, and even though I cringed to hear people said, "Oh, I don't ever want to work in a workplace where there's a bunch of women," I hadn't got that bad yet. I always have this hope, keep hope alive. So I have this eternal hope that no, it'll be okay, it'll get better, get better. But I do hear a lot of men and I hear a lot of women say, "I do not want to work at a job where it's mainly women working there." And every time I hear it, it just kind of sends something up and down my spine when I hear that. But why does it seem so difficult sometimes? I mean, really. I hear people say that, although I don't believe it, but I've been in some of those workplaces. It's just difficult. It's like really hard. Why is that? So let's talk about that today. So we're actually going to talk about something that's related to this thing about sometimes why it can seem difficult for a group of women in the workplace and why it's like, yeah, and everybody's like trying to get everybody else. So it links back to gender bias, right? So gender bias is this thing that, when it comes to females in the workplace, there are biases that people have, right? And it's not just men who have the biases. We as women we'll have biases too. So the number one bias that I want to mention today is one of the things that happens in the workplace is women have to prove themselves over and over and over again. So whether you've been in that workplace for 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, doesn't matter. As a woman, you will have to often prove yourself over and over and over again. And so it does get tiring. I know there's a group of ladies and we all talk about how it's like, I am so tired of having to prove myself. Why can't, I've got my credentials and I do my job well. Why can't I just stand on that? Why must I always prove myself? That's one of the biases in the workplace, is that if you're a woman, everyone wants you to well, did she really get that position or did she do something to be handed that position? And so there's that notion of that you really didn't deserve that position. So let's just make sure she knows what she knows. And you're consistently having to prove yourself over and over again on the job. And yeah, that can get tiring, right? So that's one type of gender bias. And so another type of gender bias is the fact that women walk this tightrope. And as someone who, my first real job, I like to say, was as a second lieutenant in the Army. And I got to tell you, the tightrope is difficult. It is the truth, because I've had to walk that tightrope. The tightrope is this. In the workplace, you don't want to be considered too feminine because people don't believe in you and they go, I'll never follow her. She'll never do this. She'll never do that. And so you don't want to be seen as too feminine in the workplace. And then there's the flip side. You don't want to be considered too masculine, because when women are seen as too masculine, too demanding, then you're labeled aggressive, rude, the B word, the one that rhymes with witch, right? And people don't like women who they perceive as too masculine. you're too in charge, you're too good, you're too, and they don't like you. So women have to walk that tightrope. It's like either you're pansy or you the B word. That rhymes with witch. And so as a woman, you consistently trying to walk the tightrope and be in the middle. Am I too feminine? Am I too emotional? As if everybody in the world doesn't have emotion, right? Well, except for sociopaths. That's why they're sociopaths, because they have no emotions. But for the rest of us that are not sociopaths, we have emotions, right? But we all know that if you're tagged as too emotional in the workplace, means you're being too feminine, you're not a great leader, you're not a good manager, you're not a good worker. And so someone was like, oh, I'm not going to show any emotion. Then it's like, you're too masculine, like we still don't like you. And it's a tightrope. You try to walk that tightrope, and it can be really difficult, right? Very difficult. So that was the second type of gender bias that women in the workplace face. The third type is called the motherhood wall, and this one is it's kind of funny at the end of the day, and I'll tell you why. Number one, once you have like a child, or sometimes it's like as soon as you say I'm pregnant, or someone goes, ooh, I see a baby bump, it's like the confidence that you had, it's like it, I don't know, dissipates just because you're pregnant. Really? But yes, that is what happens. It's like it dissipating, just goes away, right? And I say it's funny because even if you don't have children, if you're a woman, you will still get tagged with that gender bias. Even if you don't have any kids, or even if you don't want kids, you will still get tagged with that gender bias. Isn't that crazy? You're like, but I don't have kids. I don't have kids. Really? I don't have kids. And then there are other women going, I don't even want kids. But you will still get tagged with the motherhood, the wall of motherhood. That is a bias that as women we run into in the workplace. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Crazy. And so I definitely had that one too. I have 3 girls, so I definitely saw that in the workplace, right? And so those are the 3 types of biases I want to go back and mention. The first one is that women have to we have to prove ourselves in the workplace over and over and over again. No matter how great we are at our jobs, how educated we are, and actually we are the most educated population out there. But over and over again. Number 2 was a tightrope. You don't want to be seen as too feminine, because people won't believe that you're competent and that you're confident. And then if you're too masculine, then people really don't like you because they say you're too masculine. They love to beat up on women or hate on women they consider too aggressive, too demanding, too decisive, right? So there's that tightrope that you walk. And so the third one was the maternal wall. If you are pregnant, you get pregnant, you announce it. And even if you don't want kids, or if you don't have kids, you will still be tagged with the maternal wall gender bias. And so, yeah, and that third one is just crazy. But the last one is the one that just really was all over me. I had issues with this one. The final gender bias in the workplace is the tug of war. This is where women in the workplace who are affected by having to prove themselves over and over again, who are affected by always having to walk that tightrope between too feminine and or not feminine enough because you're too masculine, and the maternal wall. This is the one where all of that stuff gets in the melting pot and it kind of splashes out, and then women get in conflict with other women. That's what can really make the workplace tough. It is like you go in, and I understand it's all women here. Why aren't we getting along better? And don't get me wrong to say that if there are just women in the workplace, there will always be conflict. But if you find it difficult, and I've been in some difficult workplaces, I just found it really difficult where people were sabotaging, they were trying to tear you down, they were sowing seeds of discord, they were like telling lies on you or half-truths. They are hiding information and not sharing with you because they don't want you to do well. Those kinds of behavior can often happen because of gender bias. We have that tug of war going on, and there's conflict because we feel like we're in competition with one another, and I want to be seen as better than everybody else. And so you have that conflict, and oftentimes when that conflict plays out in the workplace, it is just one of the most horrible places to work. It just is. And so if you have anxiety, it just kind of ups it like 2, 3, 4,000, because you know you're going into this workplace every day where it's just this pit, and it's bad. It's just bad. Let me just say it's bad. I've been there. I've been on some places where it's been horrible. Now I have been blessed to work in some places where we were just one big team and we looked out for each other, and I'm telling you, it was the best place to work. On the flip side, yes, I've seen some of those places where it was the most horrible thing, because every day surroundings watching, hey, how are you doing? Thanks for popping in. We're talking about why it sometimes seems so difficult to work in a workplace where it's mainly women. And so it tracks back to gender bias and the fact that we have to prove ourselves over and over again, no matter how great we are, how experienced we are, how up we are, whether we're high up, we're just starting, we're somewhere in the middle. And also the maternal wall, which will hit you whether or not you have kids, right? And when all three of those biases get in the workplace, and they get all mixed up, and women start having this tug of war because they're trying to compete against each other and trying to figure out a way to distinguish themselves from each other. And that can be a really tough, toxic workplace. I've been in a couple of those, and I didn't know what was going on, and so I was just miserable. You know, the only thing I wanted to do was just get me out of here. Just let me get out of here. And so understanding how the gender biases work, and some people, you know, when you have anxiety, they want to say, being in a toxic workplace can just make your anxiety worse. And so it is always about figuring out what you can do to make it better in that workplace. And once you figure out you can't make it better, it is planning your exit strategy to get out for the sake of your health. It's sometimes better to walk away and to another job, not just quit. Unless sometimes people are so sick that they do have to quit, because it's quit or die. And hopefully nobody is in that position, but sometimes it gets that bad. But most of the time it's planning an exit strategy to exit out into another job, and be aware of gender biases so you can kind of look out for that in your next position and know how to handle that from Jump Street. So if you are in a toxic workplace and you have tried everything you could to make it better, but it's just time for you to go, but you're having problems planning an exit strategy, you're just stuck. And I've known people to be stuck for 5 years. They know they need to go. They know their workplace is making them sick, but they're too afraid to go. Send me a direct message and let's get on a call and do it. It's a free strategy call that I offer to professional women. If you're in that position, let's get on a strategy call and look at what a plan looks like for you so that you can exit with your sanity, manage your anxiety, and then leap to your next best level in a new job. For some of you, that leap will be to a new job. Sometimes when I work with women, it's not only a new job, but it is actually a promotion. Other times it is jumping into entrepreneurship, because some women, that is their leap. They're like, I'm done. I'm just going to go to entrepreneurship. So whether you want that next job just to get away because you know it's time for you to go, or whether you want that next job and a promotion, or whether you want entrepreneurship, send me a direct message. Let's do a free strategy call, and we can fit your plan to whatever it is you wanted to lead to. So that has been my motivational nuggets for you today. Appreciate everybody watching, and for those of you who always catch me on the replay, thank you. Again, if this affects you, send me a direct message, get on my calendar for a strategy call, and let's work this out. This is Twanna Carter, your career and anxiety coach. Take care. Bye-bye.